Hello, everyone. Hello, inclusive leaders. Welcome to Lead at Any Level Live. I'm your host, Amy C. Waninger, the Inclusion Catalyst. I am having just a little bit of technical difficulty with my computer right now, and so I am hoping that you all can both see and hear me. I can't hear anything. It is not working on my side, so we'll see what's going on today. But hopefully you can hear me. And I would love to know in the comments. Oh, I see a thumbs up. Thank you. If you could let me know in the comments for sure that you hear me, I would love to know that for a fact. Thank you. And let me know where you're watching from. Where are you today? What are you celebrating? I really want to get in the habit of starting the lives this way. What are you celebrating? Because I think going into a new week, it helps us really focus on what's going well in our work, in our family lives, in our personal lives, and helps us focus on the right things. Um, Meaning, what's going well? What can we be happy about? What do we want to share with each other this week? And one of the things that I'd like to share with you is about a relatively new initiative from Lead at Any Level. This is a behind the scenes sort of peek, if you will, into some work that I'm doing to set my company up for long-term success. And I was already doing this in a way, right? Thinking about it and making sure that I had the right people in place. But I am in partnership with Vanessa Penoyer over at Go2Girl. She's helping me with some business development work that we're doing. And she challenged me to actually start tracking numbers and to put a stake in the ground around what I'm doing about supplier diversity from within my own company. And so I was working last week on those numbers, and I wanted to share them with you this week because transparency is a precursor to accountability. And so let me first talk a little bit about what supplier diversity is and why it matters. So the first thing you need to know about supplier diversity is that if you are, whether you're a small business or you work for a large business, you want to make sure that you are getting a diverse pool of suppliers for whatever products and services you buy. And the reason for that is pretty simple. You might have a disruption in one part of your supply chain, but then over, in another place, there might not be the same hurdles or obstacles. And so diversifying where you get your goods and services from will help you kind of mitigate that risk across the whole supply chain. Now, for a business like mine, most of what I provide is services and not goods, although there are some, tangible products that we sell in terms of books, workbooks, journals. There are some pieces of things that we sell, but for the most part, what we provide is services. And most of what we hire and purchase is services related. So I broke down hold on one second, trying to find it. I broke down my supplier spend or my vendor spend, or however you want to think about this, suppliers, I guess, into three categories. And you can do this too. Now, I talk a lot about networking as a tool for diversity, but if you're higher up in an organization and you are dealing with external vendors or external suppliers or subcontractors, this is something that you want to think about in addition to your network, because this is a really good way to make sure that the flow of opportunity goes broad and that you are really getting a good return on the investment of your time in building these relationships. So let me give you some stats. I'm not going to put these up in the on the screen, but I'll just share with you a little bit. So I broke my supplier diversity buckets down into three things. The first is partners. These are people that I have a good referral relationship with. We are actively engaged in promoting each other's businesses, but we don't necessarily have contracts back and forth, or we're not like, I'm not hiring them, they're not hiring me, but we are talking about each other out in the world and making good referrals. So partners is one category. Then the next category is subcontractors. And these are folks that are in similar businesses to mine. And what we find is when we are doing this kind of work, where we're doing consulting, speaking, training, and advisory services, a lot of times we get into these cycles where it's feast or famine. So we might get a whole lot of work at once, and then we're busy doing the work. And so we're not selling new work. And then, we kind of hit a low patch. in the business in terms of the revenue cycles. So the idea is that if several of us band together and we have complementary skill sets, or we can help each other, on similar projects, we can help each other kind of smooth out some of those hills and valleys in our businesses. And so that we're not overwhelmed and then wondering, how we're going to pay the bills the next quarter. So subcontractors are a key factor for companies like mine. And, finding the right subcontractors is really important, because then, they're doing stuff with my name on it and vice versa. And then the other category that I have is vendors other than software companies. And the reason I did vendors other than software companies is my software stack is kind of ridiculous for the size company I am. I use a lot of different tools, and I really do not know and wouldn't even know how to track down what the ownership of some of those tools is. So aside from like the basic software that I use, that I subscribe to on a monthly basis, for like accounting software or automation software or my customer relationship management tool, for example, I don't count any of those, because I'm going to use what I'm going to use, because that's what makes sense for, my business. And even if a better product came along, frankly, I wouldn't switch, because I'm so ingrained and entrenched in what I'm doing. So it would be too much to try to manage all of that. And there are a lot of those tools. But I was thinking about, who are my other vendors? Whose products do I resell? Who do I hire to coach me or to help me with work? Who are the people that that I ship out, operations kinds of things to, or, certain components of my business, like legal or accounting support or whatever. And so those are my three categories. Basically, it's partners. They're people with whom I do not have an actual contractual relationship, but we talk about each other a lot. Subcontractors, who will actually help me fulfill my obligations to my clients. And then vendors other than software. And these are people that I use to help get jobs done for my business, to get work done for my business. So across those three categories, then what I did was I looked at, well, who among those businesses are eligible as diverse suppliers, and who are certified as diverse suppliers. So let's talk about the difference between eligibility and certification, because this is important for some companies more than others. And if you're dealing with a procurement team in your organization, you need to understand what their rules are around certification if you want to get credit for, contributing to supplier diversity goals. So here's the difference. Eligible businesses are those that are owned primarily by someone from a marginalized or historically excluded background. For example, women, Black and brown folks, the LGBTQ community, veterans, people with disabilities. And then there are some other categories as well. Those are the ones that I look at. And so I looked at, excuse me, I'm going to shut my space heater off. Oops, that didn't do it. One more time. All right. So I looked at those, five categories of eligibility, to see who in those three networks would be eligible to be considered a diverse supplier. And what I found was, overall, I have about 78% of my partners, subcontractors, and vendors other than software are eligible, or would be considered eligible, for certification. Now, here's where it gets tricky. If I wanted to be very, very, very strict about this, I would say, well, the only ones that count are the ones that are certified. So they have to be certified by an independent party, meaning there's a very long application process. I've been through this process a few times now. You have to basically turn over all of your accounting records, all of your tax records, all of your company formation documents, operating agreements, active contracts, past contracts, customer references. It's a pretty involved process. And once you hand all of that over and you prove that you are owned at least 51% by someone who meets the criteria, right? One of the criteria that I listed, then a certifying body will, put you in their process and ultimately decide if you are eligible for certification. Now, again, certification means that you've been vetted, but eligible just means that, you meet the criteria. And so when I look at, I have about 78% of my partners, subcontractors, and vendors are eligible, but only about 22% of them are certified in any category. And what's interesting about that is that some of them don't want to get certified because they're not trying to build their businesses, and that's not a good selling point for them. But I do want to see what I can do to encourage or even support the certification process for them. So that's something that I'm working on next, because now that I've measured, I can see the gap between where I could be and where I am with this. Now, this gets really interesting too, because most of my, well, not most, almost half of all of these folks that are eligible for certification are eligible in multiple categories. So it's not just that I have a lot of women that are working for me or working with me or that I'm purchasing from, right? It's also that I have a lot of women who are women of color, who are Black and brown, women who are LGBTQ, LGBTQ folks who are veterans, people who are, maybe minority ethnicity and also disabled. So when you look at multiple categories, that's kind of a good indicator of whether or not you're being too homogeneous as well in your vendor pool. So of my 78% of eligible vendors, um, well, 78% of my vendors are eligible, or my suppliers are eligible. About 44% are eligible in multiple categories. So now I know kind of what I'm working with, and I feel like that's a pretty good number. Most companies strive to have about 10% of their spend be with eligible or certified businesses. So the idea is that they're being sure to invest like 10% of their outside spend with businesses that are certified. My goals are a little higher than that, not just because of the work I do, but because of the people that I know and kind of the circles that I hang out in. So those are some of my numbers. And I'm curious, how many of you right now are tracking where you spend your dollars in your organization, for your department, for your team? Do you know where your money's going? Do you know if you're spending locally or with small businesses or with diverse owned businesses? And that can be a huge opportunity to find new suppliers to add to your supplier base. And really, any category that you spend money in, you can find suppliers that maybe have been, maybe they don't have the country club relationships with the executives, but that they are very capable and very, very hungry for the work and will do a great job for you. So all of that being said, I'm excited to know where I stand in my own supplier diversity process and initiative, but I'm also registered and certified as a diverse supplier myself. So Lead at Any Level is an entity, it's a limited liability company, and it is independently certified by several different bodies. And I'll share a little bit more about each of those this week when we go into the leader tips videos, the 3 to 4 minute, or I'm sorry, 3 minute or less videos each weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So I'll share a little bit about what those certifications are that Lead at Any Level has, the certifying body, where they come from, and what they mean, and why they're important to us and to me, and why I hope they're important to you as well. But we are certified in multiple categories, and that's something we're really proud of, because we are a small company. We're a very small company. Right now we have 2 employees, and one of those is part-time and temporary. So we are growing. We're growing through a lot of external relationships, but to have these certifications and to have had them for as long as we have, we've been certified as a woman-owned business, I believe, since 2018. And we formed in 2017. So really the first chance we got when we had tax records, we submitted. And, we've been certified, I think, as an LGBT business enterprise since 2018 as well. Some of the other ones a little bit later. But anyway, it's a great process to go through, because it really does help. As a business owner, it helped me kind of understand some of the things that were important in my business before I really understood what was important in my business. And it was also a really good opportunity to build relationships with other vendors, other suppliers, corporate buyers, people who sponsor conferences. I know the WeBank National Conference either just wrapped up or is going on right now. And so there are lots of deals being made and matches being made in that setting. And I'm so excited for the people that are participating in that, because it really is, it's really, it's a great opportunity, not just for small businesses that are certified, but also for large companies to diversify their suppliers and really tap into some new products, new services, and some innovations that they may not have access to otherwise. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for listening to all of that. I hope this was insightful for you. I don't do a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff because I don't know how much you really want of it, but hopefully this was insightful for you. Hopefully this gives you something to think about as you think about how do you want to be intentional about spending your vendor dollars this year in your organization, on your team, or even personally. And let's see what we have for you this week. So this week, again, every weekday, 4 p.m. Eastern, for 3 minutes or less, tune in right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube for an episode of Leader Tips. This week, I'll be breaking down 5 different diverse supplier certifications that Lead at Any Level has, who we got them through, how we got them, just a little bit about those processes, so that you know a little bit more about us and you know a little bit more about the supplier diversity space. If you are a small business owner, or I'm sorry, the owner of a small business, I guess is a better way to put that. If you're the owner of a small business and you would qualify as a diverse supplier, you're eligible for supplier diversity status, meaning you're a woman, you're an ethnic minority, Black or brown, you're LGBTQ, you are a veteran, or you are disabled. I would encourage you to reach out to Vanessa Penoyer. I will tag her, and I'll try to put it in the comments. Vanessa Penoyer. And she is at www.gotogirlforresults.com. And I will put that in the comments so you will have it. But she can help you get certified. And if you are in the procurement space, that is a hard word for me to say for some reason. Procurement. Got it. All right. If you are in the procurement space in a corporation, if you do any sort of buying or purchasing, or if you've, been authorized up to a certain limit to do work with outside vendors, please reach out to Vanessa because she can help do the matchmaking for you. She has a ton of clients like me and, like other people in tons of different, industries that she can help connect you with, but she can also help you kind of audit your own supplier diversity process, make sure that your portal makes sense, that people can access it, that it's up and running, and actually help you set the targets that you need to move your supplier diversity initiatives forward. So I cannot recommend Vanessa highly enough. She has been an amazing partner and friend to me. She has done incredible work for me with more to come. And I know she can help you too. So big shout out, big thank you to Vanessa, who I believe is on vacation this week, but get in her inbox so she can follow up with you when she gets back. And then, okay, so then Thursday, sorry, that was Leader Tips. That's the call to action. Thursday is Including You. And this is the interview podcast where I talk to chief diversity officers and other executives who are actively working to advance inclusion in their workplaces. And this week, my guest will be, let me find it. This week, my guest will be Shannon Pope. And Shannon works at Sony North America, or Sony Electronics North America, excuse me. And she'll be talking about employee networks and how Sony Electronics is using employee networks to advance inclusion in their workplace. You will not want to miss that. That's Including You, Thursday at noon Eastern, right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. If you miss the video podcast on Thursday, you can catch that as an audio podcast on Friday through Living Corporate. Living Corporate is a podcast that is available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all of the podcast platforms. Too many to mention. You find a podcast platform, it's going to be there. Look for Living Corporate, and you'll want to subscribe. We are the Friday show. However, they have many, many shows and many amazing offerings and fabulous guests every single week. You will not want to miss a minute of that. So be sure to subscribe to Living Corporate. Be sure to tune in on Friday if you miss us on Thursday. If you prefer video, it'll be live on YouTube forever and ever on Thursday, and also on my website, leadatanylevel.com. And let's see what else. I think that's it. I hope you all are having a great week. Sorry if I'm a little scatterbrained today, but my kids are home on spring break and I'm kind of like monitoring in the background to see if anybody's screaming at anybody. So thank you all for joining me. I will see you next week right here, Monday at noon Eastern, for another Lead at Any Level Live. Bye.